But it's almost the curse of drafting too well, right? You've assembled these three phenomenal talents who all deserve to get paid. And when it comes to Dak, he was phenomenal last year. He was in the MVP race for quite a bit of the year. Like he was absolutely terrific if we, don't talk about his playoff performance, but overall at the end of the day too, like he mentioned before, they don't have a backup plan right now. They don't really have a choice. They're not going to be good enough to, they're not going to be bad enough to be in the top running for one of the top quarterbacks next year. Um, unless you really think that there's going to be a future quarterback worth taking in the back end of the draft. And I'm not seeing it. Trey Lance just isn't it. And I think they're going to be backed into a corner where they're going to end up giving Dak a lot of money while they start looking for his replacement probably in the next 3 years.
I see. Here's the thing. I think that Dak Prescott isn't a Dallas Cowboy next year. I really believe that. I think the Cowboys are going to take a huge step back this year. I think they lost a lot this offseason already. I think losing Dan Quinn's going to hurt them more than people realize. He was a great defensive coordinator for them. I honestly believe the Cowboys take a huge step back this year. And when they take a big step back this year, I don't think they pay Dak Prescott. Now, you already seen it today. In training camp. I forget the guy's name for the Cowboys. Intercepts Dak Prescott, hands him the football. Dak smacks the football out of his hand. That team, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's his aura. I don't know if it's his attitude, his personality. They do not respect him. Brett, if anybody broke that Green Bay game down as much as I did, Dallas versus Green Bay in the playoffs last year, it was you.
Yeah.
Did you not watch the overthrow that happened in the beginning of the second quarter to CeeDee Lamb and CeeDee Lamb's body language? Am I the only one that sees when Amari Cooper calls him the Black Kirk Cousins? Like, it's a lot of things that happen in Dallas about Dakota Rain Prescott, and I really believe that Cowboys team, that organization, is not sold on him. And if they were sold on him, they would have said, here's $55.1 million. We're going to give you $100,000 more than Trevor Lawrence and Jordan Love and Tua Tagovailoa, and here's your money. They would have did that. They didn't do that yet. What's your thoughts on that?
As an Eagles fan, I think I would love for them to resign him. As a football fan, I would love for the Cowboys to buck the trend and say to a quarterback, prove it. Right? And they're saying prove it. They're saying if he has a great year, they're going to give him the contract. If he doesn't and it's the same result, and when I say great, like he needs to get to the NFC Championship game. There has to be some kind of threshold where he goes farther. I think it would be smart not to invest that money in the quarterback. I think that's should not be an unusual move, but I think a lot of teams are so afraid of not having that quarterback. I mean, I don't think Tua is worth the money. I'm sorry. I don't think Jordan Love is worth that money. I think he's a nice young quarterback, but, I'm pretty sure we'll get to that later, but I don't know.
Well, we are going to get into that. It's a great segue because what we're going to talk about is quarterback contracts. That's where we're going to start. And, 3 quarterbacks got paid. And just on the Facebook page the other day, my man Black Elmore put up start bench cut. And we're going to talk about that right now. It's going to be Tua, Jordan Love, Trevor Lawrence. All 3 players got paid right around that $53 to $55 million a year. If you're starting one, benching one, cutting one, franchise quarterback edition, Jordan Love, Trevor Lawrence, Tua. Godfrey, I know my answer. I know Brett's answer from the chat already. I want to hear yours first, and then we'll get into ours, and we'll debate it. Start, bench, cut.
So we got Tua, Dak, and Jordan Love.
Yep, you got it. Start, bench, cut.
I'm starting Jordan Love.
Okay.
I'm benching Dak, and I'm cutting Tua.
Dak's not in this.
Wait, who did I?
Jordan Love, Trevor Lawrence, and Tua.
Man, that's a tough one. But I'm gonna start Trevor Lawrence. I'm gonna bench Love, and I'm gonna cut Tua.
Okay, that's my. I think I swapped Tua and Jordan Love, but I could be swayed. I could be swayed on the benching and the cutting. There's a clear starter for me, and it's Trevor Lawrence. Yeah, I think he does everything on the football field except throw off balance better than both quarterbacks. Jordan Love can throw off balance better than anybody I've seen in the NFL, not named Patrick Mahomes. His mechanics are broken. He does not throw the ball from the clean pocket well. He's not a precision passer, but I will say this: throwing off his back foot, throwing on the run, throwing off balance, Jordan Love does it better than anyone. Durability, I like Jordan Love above both of them as far as staying on the football field, avoiding injuries. But Trevor Lawrence throws the football better. He does. And he throws the ball with more arm strength. He throws the ball with more precision. He throws the ball with more accuracy. It's just Trevor Lawrence makes a lot of really stupid mistakes at key and critical moments in games. So my argument against him would be turnovers and trying to play hero ball. Now, Tua, his accuracy is better than both of them. He is the more accurate quarterback of the three, but he does not have the arm strength, and he cannot make all the throws, and his durability would be worse at the bottom of the barrel. I start Trevor Lawrence, I bench Tua, and I cut Love. Now, Brett made an argument, and I'll let him speak for himself, that Jordan Love in the second half of the season was the third best quarterback in the NFL, or top three quarterback in the NFL. I don't know what we are watching, because if I think it was me, I want to pull it up. I want to get the exact game scores. Are you going by QBR? What stat are you going by when you say that, Brett? Because the reason I asked that question is I remember a Monday Night Football game versus Tommy DeVito where he looked like trash, looked awful. So, I want to understand what is your basis on that statement?
I was going off a lot of just different counting stats where, yeah, he had some stinkers against Danny DeVito. That was not great. But he also went on this nice run where he just went 18 touchdowns to 1 interception second half of the year. And for every stinker against Danny DeVito, he also outdueled Patrick Mahomes. He sent Justin Herbert home. He went into Dallas and absolutely smoked the Cowboys. I think when we look at just basic production on the field, we're looking at 18 touchdowns in the second half of the year, and he took care of the football. He was putting up the yards. He was putting up the numbers. So I wasn't really looking at game score or anything like that. But when I just look at touchdowns, interceptions, and yards and basic stats like that for quarterbacks in the second half of the year, he was right there with all of them.
I mean, that's fair, but here's let me give you a counterpoint. And I just want to go over it, right? So, we'll talk about from we'll start it. Listen, we'll be very generous. We'll start week 11. We won't go week 10 where they lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers. We'll start at week 11, okay? Is that fair? Yeah. That's the win over the Chargers. He was 27 of 40 for 322 and 2 touchdowns. We would all consider that a good performance. Is that fair?
Yeah.
At that point, they were 4-6. Then on Thanksgiving Day was, in my opinion, Jordan Love's best game outside of the playoff game versus Dallas. 22 of 32, 268, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Good game?
Yeah.
Yeah, best game he has at a pro. He's 25 for 36 for 267 and 3 touchdowns versus the Chiefs. They won 27-19 on Sunday Night Football. That's 3 good games in a row. Fair? We're all on the same page there.
Yeah.
And I think the wheels fell off a little bit. And I think we give him a little bit too much credit down the stretch. And I'll tell you what I mean. Lost 24-22 to Tommy DeVito. He's 25 of 39 for 218. You can't throw the ball 40 times for 218 yards. 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and a loss to the Giants that should have put them out of playoff contention. But that's okay. He followed it up with another, in my opinion, stinker. 29-39, 284, 2 touchdowns. The stats look cool. Lost 34-20 to Tampa Bay. Can't lose that football game. Can't score 20 points. Didn't get them in the end zone. That's important to me, okay? Got him in the end zone first half, scored 10 points in the first half, 10 in the second. Isn't enough. Then he played the worst team in football, and they won 33-30. So we want to praise stats. That's okay. He went 17 of 28 for 219 and 2 touchdowns versus the Carolina Panthers. They were the worst defense in football last year. That's not great stats. Now we're going to go to Minnesota, and that's the game that the benching of Jair Alexander. Everyone thought Green Bay would lose this football game. They thought that Nick Mullins, and actually I don't think they started Nick Mullins in that game. I think there was a Sunday night game. They started Jaron Hall. And we give Green Bay the credit for that game, Jordan Love the credit for that game, when in reality, the Minnesota Vikings offense was completely anemic. They were down 23-3 in the first half. That the Vikings had turned the ball over twice in the first half, short fields, and they were up 23-3 at halftime. I'm not discrediting Jordan Love, but it's not as impressive of a performance as I thought I seen in Los Angeles and in Detroit and in Kansas City. And then you go to last week of the season where the yards looked good, but if we're being honest, 17-9 versus the Chicago Bears the last week of the season, what's the issue around the end zone? Why are they not scoring more points? Now, it looks like they fixed that issue versus Dallas, so I'll stop. I'll pause. But like your response to that second half, I don't think that's a star-studded second half. I think he had a nice 3-game stretch. And then outside of that, he was mediocre.
Well, it's one of those things, right? Because I pulled up his stats from week 11 to the end of the season from the Super Bowl. So from week 11 to the end of his year. And yeah, he was second in yards. He was tied for second in touch. No, he's tied for first and second in touchdowns. Yeah, he had 18, only right behind Dak Prescott while only throwing 1 interception. According to PFF, he was right behind Brock Purdy as the second best quarterback in the league at that time. It's one of those things where some of those games we should have won, and at the end of the day, Jordan Love does have some things to work on. You can tell that sometimes he tries to put the entire team on his back, and he tries too hard. He makes some stupid mistakes. He makes some stupid turnovers and just tries to force things that aren't there. But I think the biggest thing that I'm looking at when it comes to Jordan Love, and if I'm comparing him to someone like Tua, is because I genuinely think that this is the worst version of Jordan Love we'll see. I think he only gets better from here. I think he has issues, but I think a lot of them are fixable. There's some, I think some of his turnovers I think are just going to be there, and I can live with that. And if you're telling me I have to pick between Jordan Love and Tua, who I would say Tua had the best year of his career last year, and Jordan Love still threw for more touchdowns. So he got in the end zone more than Tua, while less interceptions, while being a more mobile quarterback. All of his rushing stats across the board were better. I'll take that. Like, was Tua's completion percentage better? Sure. But to your point,
for 500 more yards. I mean,
yeah, absolutely. But getting into the end zone, like you said, scoring means a lot. And Jordan Love did that better than Tua. Yes, he threw for 500 less yards. But also, let's look at the weapons. Tua had Tyreek Hill. Tua had Jalen Waddle. I think Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson, and crew are great. But they're not Tyreek Hill and Waddle. So to me, I'm looking at Jordan Love doing, I think you can argue, more than Tua with less. Even if you want to argue that Tua had a better year, the gap isn't that far, and he did it with less.
I won't argue that Tua had a better year or Jordan Love had a better year. It's not what I'm doing. What I'm analyzing is what I see when I look at these quarterbacks and what I'm seeing as far as going forward. I think that we can all agree that Tua is the most accurate of the three of them. Would you not agree that Trevor Lawrence is the second most accurate of the three of them?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So he's the third most accurate quarterback of the three of them. And he has very sporadic play. And what I mean by that is, and once again, I can be convinced Jordan
You
Love.
guys mean accurate by completion percentage? Is that what you're
No,
calling
I
it?
just mean accuracy.
Because I think Leverett Lawrence is more accurate than all of them. I mean,
Tua is definitely more accurate. He throws it.
Yeah.
Now, if you add the deep ball to it, Trevor Lawrence throws a much better deep ball than Tua does, and there's no question there. But if we're being honest, Jordan Love throws a better deep ball than Tua, and he makes more spectacular plays than Tua. I think that Jordan Love can improvise better than the three of them as far as when the pocket breaks down or the play breaks down. So, I feel like that you can kind of argue both ends there, but Tua is more accurate. We can't discredit.
Yeah, but I think he's a spot quarterback, and they wanted to get the ball out of his hands early to obviously avoid injury. Everybody was afraid he's going to get hurt last year, and he didn't. And he's definitely a quarterback that you move off a spot. He's Brock Purdy light. That's what I would call him. Brock Purdy's got more athleticism to him as far as moving around in the pocket, in my opinion. And I think Brock Purdy's a little bit more accurate than he is in a sense where if he's moved off a spot. But if you move Tua off a spot, he's not as accurate. It's all about timing. Those routes are all timed into the play, and you have to hit a spot. The receiver's got to be there. And if you're able to disrupt the route or the rhythm of the pass, then he's not going to be looking as good. And that's why the deep ball is not as good for him. And then that's why when you look at Trevor Lawrence, he has a higher ceiling for me. So I go one because I think Lawrence has a higher ceiling. I think this is an important year for him. I think Jordan Love has hit his ceiling relatively, and that's my thing with him. And this is why I think this. Now, could he get better? Sure. When I look at there's a play that defines Jordan Love for me, and it's the very last play of the NFC Championship game. I'm sorry, the Niners game against the Packers.
Yeah, divisional championship. I got you.
Yeah, and he throws off his back foot. It was an awful play across his body into the middle of coverage with the game on the line. That has to be coached out, or he has to work on that, because with all that improvisation he does, you also have that type of stuff. And that was an awful play. Ill-advised, he did not need to do that. And I just looked at it while you guys were talking, and there was nothing good about that play. Now, does that negate his whole season? No, it doesn't. But I think when I look at Trevor Lawrence, he has a higher ceiling, and I just think he has to put it all together. Now, I think this is the year for Trevor Lawrence. He has to put it together, in my opinion.
100%.
But I don't know how much farther is Jordan Love's ceiling going to go, because he has to polish that part of his game. And while he's more athletic and he can make the throws, I haven't seen a ton of that. And that's why you have these games where he's great and these games where you're like, what happened against Tommy DeVito? And there was a lot of weather going on in that game. I actually bet the Giants because I just felt like they had nothing that game. I live betted it and I took it. And I knew you get great odds because no one's going to take the Giants. $50, whatever. The point is that you have those inconsistencies, and he did show a lot of improvement, but those things where it's across your body, like this isn't 90s Packers anymore where Brett Favre used to get away with that and John Madden, like, oh, he's a gunslinger. It's not. You're not going to get away with that. They're waiting for that type of throw. They were all over that in that game. There was three defenders.
What's your thoughts on Kyle's comment? Because Kyle's comment makes a lot of sense. It was Love's first season as a starter, where Tua and Trevor Lawrence have had multiple seasons starting in the NFL. So, the only thing I disagree with what you just said, I think that you made a lot of good points, right? Mm-hmm. I disagree that he's at his ceiling. I think that's a crazy comment.
But he had 3 years to study, and I think that's an advantage. That's an old school way they went at it. 4 years, actually.
Yeah, all right, but if you just cut off the first 10 games of his season, and let's just say that's his first year, and the next 10 games of his season is his second year because he had those 3 years, and you just go by the numbers in his second year, that's second 10 games in the season, Jordan Love was really friggin' good in a lot of moments. He was really good for half of the San Francisco game. He fell apart in the fourth quarter. He was really good in the Dallas Cowboy game. Absolutely. No one can argue that. He was very good in that game. He was. It was almost like Green Bay and Coach LaFleur made the decision that instead of you making these home run plays, we want you to make accurate short throws, and moved into a more West Coast style offense with intermediate throws and allowed him to take advantage and take shots every once in a while. But if you look at his yards per completion, they're very low near the second half of the year. But his turnovers completely were thrown out. He only had one interception. Well, now we'll ignore the fact that he had 3 fumbles. We're not going to do that. But the point being is his numbers looked a lot better those last 10 games.
They're high percentage passes, though. I mean, if you look at that, even look at that play I was talking about, they're going to give you, when you're playing from behind, they're going to give you the middle of the field. They'll give you those short passes all day long.
But they won a lot of those games. They weren't playing from behind.
Yeah, but
they won. What were they win? 7-9 to make the playoffs, Brett, or 6 of 9?
Yeah, no, they were. I think it was 6 of 9 to finish out the year to make the playoffs.
All right, so Trevor Lawrence, I saw a game against the Cowboys where they came back and won the year before and got into the playoffs, right? There's sometimes I see a game like that where I see that it factor where you have to
all agree that his peak is the highest. Is his peak not the highest peak, Brett?
Yeah.
Would you agree that Trevor Lawrence is the highest ceiling?
Ceiling, yeah.
Yeah, I'd say T-Laws has the highest
So
ceiling.
the reason why I bring that up is I need to see from Jordan Love where he has to make a throw that the defense knows he has to make at that spot to that person and make that throw. That's a must for me as a quarterback, right? And
all right, so Godfrey, I'll push back on that. He made 2 of those throws versus San Francisco to keep them in the ball game.
Right.
And
so the one to win it.
It wasn't to win it. It was to try to come back and tie the game. They lost by 7, right? I'm just going off memory.
I think it was 3. Was it a 3?
I'm pretty
24,
sure.
21?
To my knowledge, they were up 3. I think it was 3 or 4.
It was 24, 21. I'm looking at it right now.
24.
Okay, you're right.
Okay. All right. So he threw.
You're right.
He threw the. So it was for the win or the tie, whatever. But my point is I don't see Trevor Lawrence has made mistakes, like any of these guys. I don't see Tua being able to get out there and even make that throw that Jordan Love made. Jordan Love made that throw, and I don't think that was a smart throw. I think that's the throw where they knew where you were going to go. They knew that he had to go short. They played back, and they ran up on it, and you saw the coverage explode on his pass across the body. They were like, go ahead, throw it to the middle of the field. What are you going to do? You know what I mean? You have to be able to push through that in that situation, and that's why I have him at 2. I mean,
yeah, but at the end of the day, too, like that last throw was terrible, and there isn't excusing it. But it's not like this is Brett Favre throwing across his body in 2010 to Tracy Porter. He's not like 20 years into his career. This was his first year as a starter. He's got a lot of room to grow.
Play basketball? Who is that guy? I don't know.
But yeah, no, he's got things to work on. I'm not going to sit here and say that Jordan Love is perfect. He's not. He really does have to work on throwing from a clean pocket and not trying too hard in certain situations like he did.
How many rushing yards do you think he had in the 2 games combined? I'm just curious.
What's the 2
playoff games?
I don't know.
I'm talking about the 2 playoff games.
3 yards. 2 yards.
That's not. But
so it's not a running quarterback. But people, right? He's going to move around in the pocket. But if that's your strength, you have to be accurate doing that. That's my opinion.
All right, well, how many sacks do you think
he's not a pocket quarterback, though?
How many sacks do you think he took in those games versus those 2 defenses?
That I don't know, but I can find
Zero.
Right.
So now, if you want to make the argument that he didn't run, then I would say he got sacked. But you know what he did? He threw, and he didn't get sacked.
But he's not going to extend the sticks with his legs.
But he extended the sticks by keeping the play going.
Correct. I'm not saying he doesn't do that.
If you watch Jordan Love, he normally tries, when he escapes the pocket, uses his legs to extend plays. It's a lot like what you see with Rodgers. He doesn't extend the play just to run, and when he does, he's averaging 4.9 yards a carry. Like, he does it efficiently when he wants to, but he's not escaping the pocket to run. He's escaping the pocket, keeping his eyes looking downfield. So, is he a mobile quarterback? He is mobile, in which he keeps the play alive, and when he wants to scramble, he's very efficient at it.
I'm not saying he has to scramble. I'm just saying there's certain instances, keeping the play alive, you're going to have to fit that ball in tight windows. I need to see that's a low percentage throw. You need to see that. I need to see that more from him. I don't know if he has that gun yet. I know Lawrence can do it. I've seen him do it. I've seen him not do it, but I've seen him do it more often than not.
I think the difference with Jordan Love was his first 10 games of the season, he got sacked 19 times. his last 10 games of the season, he got sacked 11. And I think that's a huge indicator of his growth in the pocket.
They ran the ball more too down the stretch, didn't they?
No, they threw the ball 35 times a game all year. Probably threw the ball more in the second half of the year than they did in the first. Here it is. I got it right here. 40, 40, 32, 36, 39, 39, 28, 33, 32. That was how many passing attempts he had his last 10 games of the regular season.
I think
34 versus San Fran. Now you're making me argue. I'm changing my opinion. My opinion.
I think a big difference with him too in the second half of the year is, once again, we got to remember Jordan Love and Matt LaFleur. He's really only coached Aaron Rodgers when it came to regular season games. So when he got Jordan Love in the first half of the year, it looked like at times he was just trying too hard. Matt LaFleur, it looked like at times was playing it too safe, like he was overcoaching him. Like he was just trying to make him play like an insanely safe style of football. Here's your read, and go from there. I think in the second half, too, he kind of just let loose a little bit and let Jordan Love play more like Jordan Love and just wasn't as conservative with the play calling, which it led to some bad, obviously he had his bad plays, but it also led to him being able to really show what he has, how he's able to make multiple reads and extend plays with his legs, etc.
I think
21 of 34, quarterback rating of 72, QBR 42.9, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. I thought they had the Niners beat most of that game, and then when it came down to that last part, that's where I was just like, wow.
Yeah, but I'm not basing the kid's whole career and whole season off of the second half of the 49ers game. I'm not doing that.
I'm not basing his whole career, but that's just nice pressure situation.
My opinion. I'm starting Trevor Lawrence. I'm benching Jordan Love. I'm cutting to it. That's it. I'm done. That's it.
Yeah,
you've changed my opinion. He's been upgraded. All right, we're going to tackle the NFC West and the AFC West over-unders. Kyle, if you're still in the chat, we'd love to hear yours. We can have you on next week for it. Or if you're home, just hop right in. But we'll do over-unders for the AFC West and the NFC West. Let's start in the AFC. We'll start with the defending Super Bowl champions, the Kansas City Chiefs. Over-under is at 11.5. Right, why don't you start? Over-under 11.5 for the Kansas City Chiefs.
I wanted to go over on them. I think a 12-5 or 13-4 year is going to be them. At the end of the day, I think we've all learned that it's kind of stupid to bet against Pat Mahomes, so I'll take the over.
Okay.
How many wins did they have last year? Did they have 11?
12.
Was it 12?
Could be 11. You could be right. Let's check out.
12 is the new 11 since it's 17 games.
Let's check. You might be right.
KC Chiefs record
11-6.
11-6. I'm going to take them at 11. I'll take them. I'll go with the under. Yeah. And I think they get 11. I just don't think they're going to get 12. I still think they did a masterful job at making adjustments, doing what they had to do to win last year. But they're not going to get the NFL will adjust, and they're not going to let them throw the ball down the field. They were not. The deep ball wasn't present. Whether it was MVS dropping it, they just adjusted their game and it worked, and they won the Super Bowl. They're not going to get away with that 2 years in a row. That's good, and that's why they signed these guys and drafted speed. They know it. So can they do it? We'll see. I think they win 11 games. I'm not saying they're going to be a bad team. I'm just saying I wouldn't be. The Chiefs, listen, as good as they are, there's always a couple head scratchers. Like, damn, did they lose that game? What the hell? And and then the playoffs come, and then it just kind of it turns around, right? I mean, the Broncos is one I could mention. The Packers handled them. The Jets almost beat them. I mean, it was, so I don't think they're going to steamroll people and get to like 13 wins. I would take the under. I wouldn't be afraid to do it.
I'll take the over. I'm not happy about it. I know it's the suckers bet, but I'll take the over with the Chiefs. I think they get to 12. Hollywood Brown, Rashee Rice. They have a much better receiving core. Hollywood Brown, Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, Travis Kelce, healthy, hopefully. I think their receiving core is much better. And I think the Chiefs will win 12 games. I also think their division got worse, and we're obviously going to talk about that. Second in that division with over-under is in my opinion, I got to be missing something here. The Chargers over under. Hey, want to take a guess where it's at?
9.5.
It's at 8.5.
Wow.
I don't think it should be that high.
I do.
They lost their wide receiver 1, their wide receiver 2, their first round draft pick last year can't catch a ball in training camp. He still looks terrible. They took the backup running backs from the Ravens and made them their starters. I don't know what people are seeing with this Chargers team to think that they're going to win over 8.5 games. This is one of the easiest ones. I'm going way under. I think the Chargers are almost in a rebuild mode. Justin Herbert was just hurt today at practice.
Plantar fasciitis.
And he won't be back till week 1. He's going to miss all of preseason and the rest of training camp. I love the under here. I think it's the easiest one.
I'm willing to gamble. Take the over.
Please tell me how.
So, I mean, I'm going to stick to it. I mean, I know I was reading about that plantar fasciitis and that kind of affects it, but I'm still sticking to it. Listen, I think you're going to see an offense from Greg Roman. By the way, was it Greg Roman? Was that why Lamar Jackson wasn't doing good in playoffs? Okay, we've gotten past that, right? Okay. Kyle, back me up on that. I know you do. So let's be real here, okay? Greg Roman was not a bad offensive coordinator. He was not. Okay, he's good. He's been successful with the run game wherever he's gone. They're going to run the crap out of the ball, and you're going to see a Justin Herbert, once he's healthy, that's going to be efficient the way they needed Lamar to be efficient with passing and running the ball. He's going to pass less. They're going to control the clock. I think they're going to get that defense turned around, and I think they're going to sneak up on some people. I really do. I think Harbaugh is going to work. He's going to work magic just like he did at San Francisco. Remember what they were when he got there, and he turned it around. There's talent on that team. Quentin Johnson is a horrible catcher, but there's going to be some talent that they're going to eke out. I think Kamani Vidal is going to be a nice little addition behind those two aging running backs that will fit perfectly in that Greg Roman system. And I'm telling you, Justin Herbert's not slow. He's not as quick and shifty as Lamar, but he's going to be able to run that offense effectively and efficiently, and he definitely can pass the rock better than Lamar. So imagine that offense with an effective passer of the ball, and I'm telling you right now, they're going to sneak up on some teams. I'm taking the over.
I mean, they can pass it all they want, but unless you're really sold on Joshua Palmer, Ladd McConkey, and DJ Chark, I'm not really moved by the Chargers this year. I think they might be fine in spots and attacking zone, but I'm not sure any of these guys I would trust them to beat man coverage one-on-one. Maybe Joshua Palmer, and their two running backs are very injury-prone and aging. So I agree with Gene on this one. I think it's an under. I think the hype is just Harbaugh coming in from Michigan, working with Herbert. He finally has a real coach, except I just don't think the team is ready this year to make the leap everybody thinks that they're going to make.
What was their first round draft pick? It was the kid from Notre Dame.
Control-Alt-Delete. Yes, Joe-Alt.
That offensive line is going to cream. They're going to have that thing.
But they have tackles. The interior of the offensive line is not good, bro.
They'll be all right. I'm telling you. Listen, you can mold guards. You can do that. A center, a little bit different of a story. You can take tackles or former guard. You can. I've seen it time and time again. We've seen it on the Eagles.
They have 2 6th-rounders and a basic bust out of the first round that they took a few years ago from Boston College. I really don't like the interior offensive line, and I don't think they'll be able to run the ball.
I'm telling you, I'm in on it, and I think Hayden Hurst is a steal in fantasy football in the late rounds for tight end.
That's fair.
And that's another big issue with me for the Chargers, too. I watched them lose games last year because they kept allowing pressure up the middle and just overall. And I love the signing of Joe Alt. I think that's going to help them a ton, but I just don't think there's anything there. So I think Herbert's going to get pressured up the middle, and if that foot bothers him, he's not able to escape it. That's going to hurt the passing game even worse.
I've seen a coach decimate a franchise, and then they turn it around in Philadelphia. And I'm not saying they're the same guy, but Brandon Staley was an idiot. I mean, you might listen.
I think he'll turn it around. I just don't think it'll be this year.
So Chip Kelly and him aren't the same guy. I'm not saying that. My analogy here is this, and you'll remember this, Gene. you really didn't know what you had on the Eagles until Chip was gone because of the way he ran the team. They really don't know what they have on the Chargers right now until Harbaugh gets there because Staley was that bad. They quit on him. There were some people who quit. There were some people who he didn't coach things right. That was a disaster there of a coaching system. And there's probably going to be people that you think or everybody thinks that aren't that good. You're like, wow, he's a player because that's how bad the coaching was. I could confidently say that, especially when it comes to defense. You know, remember, Brandon Staley took a pee next to Sean McVay in the urinal when he got hired, and he was supposed to be a defensive specialist, you know, although he had a Hall of Fame defensive tackle named Aaron Donald and, you know, some other people, but whatever. That he's gone. He'll probably not even get a job in the XFL. But my point is there's hidden talent there that people aren't going to see because of how bad the coaching was there.
Let's move on to the Las Vegas Raiders. Their over/under is at 6.5. What are your thoughts on the Las Vegas Raiders, Brett? We'll start with you.
The Raiders 6.5. That this division is going to be really bad, isn't it? Because I don't even want to take the over on the Raiders. I'm going to go with the under, and I just think that this is an insanely. I think this team just lacks talent. To be blunt, they don't have a quarterback unless you're really sold on Aiden O'Connell or Uncle Rico. They have receiving talent. I like Devontae Adams. They got Brock Bowers. Except then we think, what skill group half the time has the steepest learning curve in the NFL? It's tight ends. So Brock Bowers isn't going to come out and be the same dominant person that he was in college, most likely. I think that the Raiders, I'm going to go with they're going to be a 6-win team. It's not going to be pretty. I think there's room for improvement, and I could be wrong, but I'm gonna take the under on these guys.
Godfrey?
You know, I really want to see Antonio Pierce succeed. I really, really do. I don't think that was a bad signing as far as Uncle Rico goes as an in-between quarterback because they picked after the Falcons, right?
Yeah.
I think they got caught with their pants down. Okay, and they wanted to take Michael Penix. I really thought they thought he'd be there.
The Raiders picked after the Broncos. They picked after there was 5 quarterbacks taken before them.
Yeah, they thought someone would be there. Is my point. I think they thought there would be a quarterback, and they said we'll take Brock Bowers. Now Brock Bowers can be great, but that was an awful pick. I'm sorry, that was an awful pick, and it would have been talked about more as being typical Raiders if the Falcons didn't stink to join up so bad with their pick. Okay. And the point of me making that is they got to help the team out here. There's other picks they could have made that would have helped them out. And, you know, they got a receiver. They got a coach they want to play for. Man, it's just I don't know what they're doing. I mean, that's the thing. Like, and I thought the Raiders did and had a direction. And then they say, you know what? We're going to throw a curveball, and we're going to let the ghost of Al Davis make a pick again and say speed kills, and let's get a tight end. Even though we just got a tight end last year, that's not bad. We'll do that. Okay. So I'm going to go with – man, see, these questions are tough because do I think the Raiders are good? No. But these are sucker – they're trying to suck you in on one of these bets, as Gene said earlier. That's why I took, you know, the under with the Chiefs, even though I'm going to take the over. I think they could squeak out 6. What, 6.5 is the over?
Yeah, you need 7.
I'll take the under. I'll take the under 6. I'll take the under.
I'm going way over here. I think the Raiders fight for a playoff spot. I think they win 9-10 games. I love the Raiders this year. I think Gardner Minshew will go out there and have a very good season. I think he's an upgrade over anything they had last year with O'Connell, with Jimmy Garoppolo. I think he'll be able to get the ball to Devontae Adams. And I love the Christian Wilkins signing. They have 2 absolute dogs on that defensive line with Max Crosby and Christian Wilkins. They also signed Jack Jones this offseason. He's a very good cornerback. Javon Morig in the back end. Antonio Pierce is going to have that defense competing week in and week out. And I think Gardner Minshew, Devontae Adams, and the core of tight end. We talk about the light learning curve for Brock Bowers. We forget they drafted last year's number 2 tight end, Michael Mayer from Notre Dame. Kid's a stud. Gardner Minshew is going to eat over the middle of the field throwing those 2 tight ends. I think the Raiders compete for a playoff spot. I think they win 9 games. I'll go way.
All right. You convinced me. I'm switching. I'm flip flopping to the over.
It's fair.
I'm flip flopping to the over. I think they could get above 6.5. I would like to see the Raiders. I want to see a competitive AFC West, but we'll see.
I think they have a very good season this year. I really believe it. But hey, listen,
I'm not sure I believe in their coordinator though.
I wish they would have signed a running back, and this is a perfect thing, Stephen Chambers. They don't have a running game. They don't. Zamir White cannot be their starting running back. Alexander Madison's is their number 2. I don't like their run game. That's fair, but I still like them to win 9 games. Last on the agenda would be the Denver Broncos. Over under listed at 5.5.
Woo!
The Broncos, and this is an interesting, they end up getting Bo Nix, who most people pegged as a second-round draft pick. I look at Bo Nix as a poor man's Drew Brees. And I'll go first on this one. I think that the Broncos go over also. I think their offense gets it rolling mid-season, near the end of the season. And I think that they have enough to win 6 games. I think it'll be very close. This is not one I would bet on, but I'll go over. They still have, Patrick Surtain on the defensive side of the ball, John Franklin Myers. I like their receiving core. They got Cortland Sutton, Marvin Mims. I think he has a good year this year. Josh Reynolds, very good glue guy. And I think Bo Nix starts for them. And I think they end up running the ball a lot. And I think they end up playing a very West Coast style offense. I'll go 6 wins. I'll take the Broncos over.
So what was it? What was it at for the Broncos? You said
5.5.
I'll go over on them. You kind of nailed all the points earlier. I think they'll be a lot more ready to play than a lot of people think. I think they'll have just enough of a run game to kind of balance out their offense. And yeah, I'll go. I'll say this is a 7-win team.
Godfrey,
Yeah, I'm going over. Don't forget about my boy Javonte Williams. I always hate training camp news because you hear he's not looking good. He's looking good. He's not looking good. It's like I ignore all this shit. He's in the best shape of his life. Whatever. All right, I'm tired of that crap. You see it in baseball, you see it in football. Oh my, whatever, dude. And I'm going by the guys, gravitas and the way he handles himself, and the dude works his ass off. I'm telling you, Joe Brady, I believe, is the offensive coordinator there now, if I'm not mistaken. That's a Sean Payton guy. I could be wrong. I'm looking up, maybe that's he's in Buffalo. I thought, no, Joe Lombardi. That's who I meant. I'm sorry. I always get those two mixed up. I know he's been with Sean Payton before. And I know Joe Lombardi. Wasn't he in the Panthers? And point is they're going to get the ball to the running back. They're going to throw the ball to the running backs. You will see that West Coast style offense. And I agree with Gene, about Bo Nix being a poor man's Drew Brees. That's why they picked him for accuracy. I don't think he's going to light the world on fire as a deep ball, but I think he's going to run that system. It hurts me to say over because I don't like how Sean Payton handles himself. I don't like when I don't like how he handled the Russell Wilson situation. I really don't. I just think he's an excuse maker, and he's a good coach. I'll give him his gravitas, his flowers. And I do think, even though he's a doucher of a person, I still think he's a good enough coach where he can get them over 5.5 wins easily.
Marry the coach to the quarterback. Russell Wilson was not his guy. I don't like the way he handled it, but this is the coach being married to the quarterback. I think that it'll work out well for them, and that's what I always say. Marry the coach to the quarterback. Let's move over to the NFC West. We'll start with the 49ers. They are tied with the highest over-under this year. They have 11.5. It's listed for their over-under. I am so this is one of those ones I would tell you just do not bet. Don't bet it. This is not going to be easy one way or the other because you don't know what's going to happen. And what I mean by that is this, right? Right now, how confident are you Brandon Ayuk's on their opening day roster?
I mean, they say they're working close to a deal, right?
I don't know. He's asked to be traded. Who are they close to a deal? Who said that? I didn't see that. That come out today? I missed something?
I've seen that in a couple articles, but again, it's I don't have a lot of faith in reporters these days, and not because of them. It's because how teams operate, and a lot of teams, including my team, the Eagles, they have a mouthpiece reporter that's basically their spokesperson that leaks stuff. So I heard mixed stories, but do I think he's on there? I don't know, man. I think they got to make a choice there in San Francisco.
Yeah, just yesterday. They said Brandon Ayuk, John Lynch, Kyle Shannon just revealed the end of the 49ers stars' long contract issues. It looks like they're coming to an agreement with the contract. That would be nice for them. I just don't know, like, and that's the point, the case, and the reason they couldn't sign him is because they didn't really have the money. What did they end up doing with Deebo Samuel? Did they trade him? Do you think he stays on the roster? And I think the 49ers are really trying to put it together for one more year. I hate that over under 11.5 of this team.
Oh, so I'm not a 49ers fan, but I got to ask you this question.
Sure.
Does Brock Purdy have an agent? Is it a janitor from a high school? Like, if there's one guy that has leverage, I'd be like, you're paying me. I don't care about anybody else. Like, he's tucking up to a Super Bowl. This dude's making $800,000. Everybody else is getting paid around him. He gets it. He gets knocked out of his cleats, and let's say he gets a bad injury, he might not ever get paid. If I'm his agent, I'm like, yo, bro, you need to get paid. They are so lucky that this dude's letting them skate on paying him because he needs a raise. I'm sorry. I don't know. The Niners get lucky with a lot of that stuff. Maybe John Lynch is a hell of a salesman. I don't know. Maybe he can sell ketchup popsicles to, a blind person. Whatever. I'm just saying, like the stuff they've done, like it just seems like sometimes it just falls in the right hands for them. Like they stole Christian McCaffrey, I think, and that worked out for them. Good for them. They got all this money in certain positions. They paid Debo. Can you pay Ayuk too? Can you pay Trent Williams? Like there's going to have to be a choice they're going to make. They just paid Bosa. They're kicking the can down the road. I mean, the Rams approved the salary cap's kind of fake, I guess, right? Like I just think that is a horrible over-under, and I don't want to take the over. I'm not saying they're a bad team, but, I could see them getting beat up a little bit just because injury, things of that nature, people, resting a little bit, like they want to save Christian McCaffrey. I don't know, man. I'm not – it seems like it's about the fault of teams. And their first-round pick, Ricky Purcell, is I think they have picked him because he's a really good friend of Brandon Ayuk's. Like, I don't think that was a great pick in their first. I don't think that was a good pick.
I hate that pick for them.
It was an awful pick. Like, why? What? Like, of all the things you needed to go after, like, and you got that guy, and him and Purcell are very close from what I read. So, I don't know. Maybe they're like, hey, we got your friend here. You're like, what kind of shit is that? I think they are at one bad move away from crumbling like a house of cards.
It's not when Trent Williams still hasn't reported. I'm going to go under here.
There, you're screwed. By the way, Trent Williams is the most important piece. I know that sounds crazy, but if Trent Williams is not there, you were with that scheme they run.
Did you see the way they looked last year with the 2 games Trent Williams missed?
Yeah, they looked awful.
Oh, I'm going to go under here. It pains me to do that. I think they'll win 11 games. I think they're way too talented on both sides of the ball, but I'm going to go under here. But I'm not by much. I'll go under 11.5.
I think I agree with that. I think they'll be right at that 11. I think they'll be a little under. It's just a mix of potential injuries. They stayed relatively healthy last year, but this team like to have guys that still have an injury history. But I think at this point, more importantly, money. We're seeing Trent Williams not deciding to report. Okay, Brandon Ayuk's contract situation doesn't get played out. What happens there? Maybe he stops fighting for extra yards to preserve his body going into next year's free agency. And I think that there's just a lot of factors with this team that maybe just aren't necessarily football related. That's going to keep them right at 11 wins.
Are they paying Brock Purdy's agent like off behind the scenes? Like, I just don't understand how this kid's not getting a fucking contract. And everybody knows I've not been a Brock Purdy fan, but the kid deserves to get paid. The results speak for themselves. I mean, he's taken up to the bowl. He's taken the NFC Championship the year before that. He played really well last year at an MVP level. He was in the conversation. And has anybody heard about like him wanting a new contract? No. What do you mean he's on a rookie contract? He can't get more money. They could rip a contract up and re-sign someone. What is that talking about? Listen, They say that if the dude sat out, they'd be in trouble. The PPA is not gonna, or I'm sorry, the agreement's not gonna. It doesn't say you can't hold out. I mean, I believe Patrick Mahomes' rookie contract got renegotiated before it ran out too. It's this teams do it all the time. It's
So they can't get a contract until next year. I mean, they might be able to sign him to an extension. He might demand an extension, but
you still could get an extension.
You might be right.
So
I'm not sure about that.
What ESPN said was he's not eligible to sign an extension until 2025. So next year will be the year where they'll have to pay Purdy.
So that's that. There's your answer, Godfrey. But
no, it may not be renegotiate, amend, alter it anyway until the final regular season of the player's final regular season game of the player's third-year contract. So that's this year.
Yeah. So next year they'll have to pay Purdy.
Okay. Well, that's why they're not paying him, Godfrey.
Well, they better get all the other stuff out of code because he's good. Listen, if no offense to my Packers fans here, but if Jordan Love gets that, what does Brock Purdy get? Is he around the same money, in the same ballpark? I think it's safe to say, right?
I'll say probably.
Purdy will get $65 million a year next year. That's wild. I would never do that.
I think 65 is a little too high. I think you're probably looking at like 56, 57 for Purdy. I could see them going a solid $1 million or $2 million over.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Reasons they don't want to sign Brandon or Trent the big contracts. I understand that. I just don't know. Like, well, we'll see. I got the under 11.5. Where are you at?
I got the under at 11.
I'm under 2.
All right, let's move on to the Rams, who are second in that division. Over under 8.5. I think this is one of the easier ones in this division. I'm going under. They lost Aaron Donald. I don't think they can replicate what they did last year with just Stafford and Puka. They also lost their defensive coordinator. He's now the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. I think that matters huge for them. Look, say what you want. That Rams defense is a bunch of no-name players that Raheem Morris was getting everything out of. I'm going under 8.5 here for the Rams.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with the under, and I think the offense will be fine. I think if Cooper Kupp comes back and he's even like 80% of the player before injury, mixed in with Puka, that offense will keep on clicking. But I think it's the defense. The defense is going to completely fall off a cliff. Aaron Donald drew so much attention on that line, it allowed others to shine, and they don't have him anymore. So
and one of those players being Kobe Turner, who had an incredible rookie year for them. I think he was number 3 for defensive rookie of the year. I don't think he'll have that season without Aaron Donald pulling in the triple coverage that he was. They signed Tre'Davious White. That hopefully he recovers from both Achilles injuries that he came off of. I don't like the way their defense is structured. And without a guy like Raheem Morris there to kind of pick up the pieces, I really don't like the Rams this year. So I'm going under. Where are you at, Godfrey?
8.5 is the number?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going under. I mean, I can see him being a 500 team or just below. I mean, I don't know if I would bet it. The NFL is weird, but I could see him winning 8 games. I mean, I will say you got a healthy Cooper Kupp this year, which that could make a difference. But the defense is definitely questionable, and they're going to have to keep the ball away and run the ball a lot to keep it out of the other offense's hands. So, I mean, it's a dicey game to play, and you're going to have to play a near perfect game on offense. So, I see under as well.
I am really, really interested in this one. The Seattle Seahawks are next on our list. Seattle Seahawks are over under sitting at 7.5. I'll go last on this one. I would love to hear what you guys think first. Yes, I seen their schedule, Papa. Where do you at with the Seahawks? 7.5, brother. Brett.
Ooh, 7.5.
Yes, sir.
I think they'll make it. I think they'll get just at 8. I think there's still enough talent on defense, and I think this offense is immensely talented. I think we're going to get a Zach Charbonnet breakout year. And overall, I think this team will just squeak by the over at 8. So I'm going to take the over.
Where are you at, Godfrey?
It's at 7.5.
Yes, sir.
I think the Seahawks can surprise people this year. You know, I think, Geno Smith's kind of fallen apart physically. I mean, he's struggling through some injuries right now. And I think they traded for Sam Howell for a reason. Do I think he's going to be a star? No, but I think he can get the ball more effectively too. Their best weapon on the team in DK Metcalf than I think Geno Smith can as far as a deep throw. Sam Howell threw a lot of interceptions last year. He didn't look awful. He looked sometimes good, sometimes bad. He looked great against the Eagles. That's another story. But
everybody looked great against that defense last year.
Oh my gosh, it's ridiculous. I think they get surprised. I think they can win 9 games, 8 games. It's 7.5. You said, right?
Yes, sir.
I take that over.
This is one of the ones that I'm very, very strong on, guys. This is one of my favorite ones. I love the over here. Mike McDonald, the defensive coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens, is their new head coach. They gave him a bunch of toys to play with. He's got Leonard Williams over the middle. He's got Boye Mafe coming in. He's got great cornerback play with Devin Witherspoon, Tariq Woolen. I love the way this team is structured, and I think they'll be able to score enough points running the football. You understand Mike McDonald's going to run that team, run. Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet. You have 2 bell cow backs in back-to-back years on rookie deals. You have DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and Jackson Smith and Jigba. And now you kind of really tried your best to build up that offensive line. I like what Seattle does this year. I think they'll compete for the division. I have them winning 10 games. I have them finishing 1 game behind the 49ers, and they might be one of the wild cards in the NFC. I love the over and the Seahawks this year. So, that's all we have. We got one more team, and the Arizona Cardinals, and this is a really interesting one. It's the last over-under we have. The Cardinals over-under. Before I give it to you, I want you to guess what you think it is. This is an interesting one. What do you think it is?
5.5.
6.5.
It's 7.5. 7.5 is the over-under for the Arizona Cardinals. A lot of money being poured in on the under. I would love to hear where you guys sit with the Arizona Cardinals. Second year with Jonathan Gannon as the head coach. Full year healthy with Kyler Murray. Their depth chart's improved. They went out there last year. They got themselves a very, very good offensive lineman. They went out this year and they got themselves Marvin Harrison Jr. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on this Arizona Cardinals team and 7.5 wins. Okay, Brett.
I think they'll be improved, but I think they'll be slightly like at the same level as last year. I think they have young pieces that'll need time to grow, so I'm going to take under, but I think they won't miss it by much. I think they'll be like a 6-win team.
Godfrey, where are you at?
I think they got some potential, man. Listen, I hate Jonathan Gannon. Everybody knows that for many reasons. However, this team showed some fight last year when they didn't really have anything to play for. Multiple times. They pulled up a few upsets. And I think, their roster is bad. They didn't get Murray back to the beginning or the middle of the year. They got Marvin Harrison Jr. I mean, I don't want to hear any excuses for Kyler Murray after this year. They got him a guy that's I'm willing to stake my life on Marvin Harrison Jr. Just hearing him talk in the Hard Knock segment with the Giants and talk about football, that guy sleeps football. He's a human computer for football. You could tell Dad was telling him plays in the crib. I'm just saying, that's the guy knows football. And you could just tell he's a student of the game. And he's just gonna make that team better. If they could get a good offense going on that team, and Trey McBride showed up last year, James Conner, he's been effective for him. I know he's older, but I just think they can win some games. I think, they're going to be able to play some decent defense. You know, I'm not a big fan of Gannon, but I just saw some fight in the team that didn't have a lot in the cupboard, and that could have completely folded down the stretch, and they didn't. They were playing football.
I want to answer this because he said, I'd love to hear what teams you think the Seahawks beat this year. I want to objectively go through the Seahawks schedule real quick, just for fun, because I haven't done this, right?
Is Papa J a Niners fan? I'm just curious.
He might be. I don't know who.
I'm just curious.
Who's your team, Jay? Let us know. But I'll go through the schedule with you just for fun, and I haven't done this yet. We're doing all teams. This week we're doing the West. Next week we're going to do the South, then the North, and then the East. But I'll go through it with you objectively. Let's go through the Seahawks schedule, 2024. Opening week, Bo Nix, rookie at Seattle. We all agree that's a win?
Yeah.
I think that's a win.
Week 2, they play the worst team in football. The worst team in football. I don't care if they're playing them at New England. I don't care if they're playing them in Tokyo. Seattle wins that game. 2-0. We're all in agreement there?
Yeah.
Would anybody here be shocked if week 3 the Dolphins went into Seattle and lost that game? I'm not saying I'll pick the Dolphins just for objectivity reasons, but would anybody be shocked if the Seattle Seahawks and Mike McDonald beat the Miami Dolphins week 3?
The Dolphins are finesse. Like,
100%. And Mike McDonald and that defense, especially with those corners, with Reek Woolen being able to match up with Tyreek Hill, Devin Witherspoon with Jalen Waddle, would you be shocked if they went out there and won that football game? I would not be shocked.
I wouldn't either. Mike McDaniel's such a genius. His scheme was completely stopped by cold weather. Give me a break. When a playoff
Mike McDaniel versus the Mike McDonald game. The battle of the mix.
That's a tough stadium to play in.
But I'll go with Miami, just to be fair. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. I wouldn't be shocked if they beat the Miami Dolphins, but let's just continue. They play at the Lions. That's a loss. That puts them at 2-2. They play at home versus the Giants. That's a win. That puts them at 3-2. They play the 49ers in Seattle. I'll say that's a loss. That puts them at 3-4. They play at the Falcons. I think that's a win. And stop me if you disagree with me. That puts them at 4-4. They play at home versus the Buffalo Bills. I'm going to pause here. Whose roster's better? I don't know who has a better roster. I'll take Seattle in that game. No?
It's a fair question. If it was in Buffalo, I might feel differently, but I think
I 100% agree with you. I'll take Seattle in that game. I think they sweep the Rams. I think the Rams are not going to be good this year, so I have them beating the Rams in Seattle. That puts them at 6-4. They lose to the 49ers. They get swept 6-5. I think they beat the Cardinals in Seattle, puts them at 7-5. I think they lose to the Jets in New York. That puts them at 7-6. I think they beat the Cardinals in Arizona. That puts them at 8-6. I think they lose to the Packers in Seattle, but I wouldn't be shocked if they won that game. That puts them at 8-7. I think they wiped the floor with the Vikings, who I think are terrible this year. That puts them at 9-7. 8-7. And then I think the Bears and Rams are the last 2 games of the season. I think they finished 9-8.
So how many wins? And what's the under over? 7?
7.5.
That's a layup, I think, with that schedule.
I think they go 9-8. And if I give Buffalo the win and Seattle, that's 8-9. I still have them above 7.5 wins. And that's me giving that. That's me saying Chicago beats them. And Caleb Williams' rookie year is as good as everyone thinks they are.
It's hard. It's hard for a fan to give their team's division rival credit, and that's why I asked if he was a Niners fan. I've done it too. I get it, but you're not going to give them the plus side of the credit. You're going to give them the low side of it because you're naturally biased. And I go through the same thing with my division, so I get it. But that's
Which
why.
Which ones do you disagree with? Which ones do you disagree with? I had your 49ers sweeping them. I want to hear which one. You said 9 wins earlier, but you said 10 wins. We can all disagree on 2 or 3 of them. Yeah, 9 or 10 wins. Would you be shocked? I wouldn't be shocked if they beat Miami or Buffalo. I'd split that. So you're saying they're going to lose both to Miami and Buffalo? in Seattle. They're both games are in Seattle. I would say they split those.
Yeah, if it was
they lost to the Jets. I said they lost to the Jets. They're playing the Jets in New York. I think the Jets go to the fucking Super Bowl.
That I'm not co-signing, but I would.
You could say the Rams is a split, but I told you when we were going through this, I think the Rams are a team that completely falls apart this year. And by the way, outside of quarterback, what is one position on the football field the Rams are better than the Seahawks at? One. Name me one quarterback. That's it. Kyron Williams? No, he's not better than Charbonnet, Kenneth Walker. Are the receiving court DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Jackson Smith, and Jigba? Is that receiving court? No, they're better there. They're better on the O-line. They're better on the D-line. They're better in the secondary. You want to argue linebacker? Fine.
They drafted Blake Corum.
I'm not a Seahawks fan. Don't say you will sweep Arizona. I'm not a Seahawks fan. I'm an Eagle fan. I don't like the Seahawks. I'm giving you my honest opinion.
Yeah, Blake Corum got drafted for a reason because Kyron Williams can't physically hold up. You started seeing it toward the end of the season. That's why they did that. So, the roster is better in Seattle. I mean, really their problem overall roster-wise, and they've made some positive improvements over the last year, has been they need a quarterback. I mean, Geno's not going to get them much farther than they have, and he's older. They're maybe going to find something in Sam Howell, but with that defense – and they're going to obviously run the ball more, and I think their offensive coordinator, Ryan Grubb, came from a place in Washington where they did phenomenal with their receivers. Phenomenal. And I think this is a talented group for him to have his hands on. And listen, some people would say Michael Penix played above his head in college. And that part of it was because of the system he was in. And that's why that coach now is the head of Alabama. So there's a reason why.
I'll say this. He said, damn, nobody's perfect. I'm sorry you're an Eagle fan. We split with y'all the last 2 years, but we won the one that mattered. So you can be sorry I'm an Eagle fan, but the last 2 seasons for us have been identical. We both lost to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, and we're crying about how we should have won the game.
Yeah.
You can be sorry I'm an Eagle fan, but the Philadelphia Eagles won Super Bowl in 2018.
Niners have a good thing going. Shanahan he's one of those guys where he's going to have to get over his hump. And we saw that in Philly here. Andy Reid was like that for a long time, and then he finally got over the hump. So he's a great coach, but he's got to get out of his own way. That's my opinion on that team. And it just didn't play out for him last year. They ran into he's already a Hall of Fame quarterback in Patrick Mahomes. I don't know how you could say he's not, even as young as he is. And they ran into the Swifties. I'm just joking about the Swifties, but listen, good team. They're a good team. I agree with Gene. I listen. Here's the thing about that: when you're predicting wins, there is never a season schedule. If anybody knew exactly how the schedule will play out and the actual strength of those teams,
I'm not mad, brother. You must not. This must be your first time listening. I have
fun. No, there's no.
I respect the hell out of you, 49er. Any fan, any real fan of the NFL that knows their team, you must. By the way, the Hall of Fame game's starting now. We're a minute past our time. Guys, we're going to wrap up. This is it. Any final thoughts? We'll be back next week. You'll see us every week for an hour and 15 minutes pre-game in the NFL. Any final thoughts, Mr. Gardy 3?
Oh, no, I'm just excited football's back tonight. Go, Pack, go. Go, Pack, go.
There he goes.
I always remember when predicting the schedule, the best thing about the NFL is upsets, and a lot of upsets happen inside the division to horrible teams that shouldn't win, but they rip them off because they play each other twice, and that's where you can get these win variances. That's why I'm with Gene on the Seahawks. Upsets are the spice of football.
All right, Godfrey, is that your final thought?
Yep.
All right. We're going to wrap up here, Sideline to Sideline. We will be back next week, hopefully with my man Kyle Edwards. Same bad time, same bad channel. Listen to Wire Sports Network. Brett, you got an N1 podcast going on in about an hour and 15 minutes?
Yep, N1 podcast coming up at 8.
So if you're a basketball fan, 45 minutes, tune in to the N1 podcast. If you're an NFL fan like I am, the Hall of Fame game is going on right now. Have a good one. Appreciate you guys tuning in. We are signing out.